Welcome to Snyder's Inc., where the fun never ends. Reactions, gaming, and more with Josh as your friend. Tune in, buckle up, it's a ride you don't wanna miss. Snyder's Inc., let's dive in, feel the ultimate bliss.
Hello everybody, welcome to Snyder's Inc. and today I got another wrestling reaction. And this is 10 greatest WWE Intercontinental Championship reigns of all time. And we will get right into this, ladies and gentlemen. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, comment what you think down below. Let's go.
You know what I miss? I miss fictional tournaments held in Brazil to crown new champions. Next time AEW wants to introduce a new belt, they better buy Pac an imaginary plane ticket to Rio de Janeiro. Anywho, this week seems like a good time to give the WWE Intercontinental Championship its flowers. Of course, I'm recording this before Raw, so maybe I'm preemptively celebrating the first singles title win of Chad Gable, but hey, a broken record for Gunther would be good too. The workhorse title of the 90s finally returning to form has made for excellent television in the WWE mid-card for the first time in a long...
Gunther is the fucking man. Gunther is my favorite fucking wrestler on WWE TV right now. There are some of them. Oh, he is just incredible. He's perfect and fucking everything.
Long time, so let's celebrate it. A reminder, of course, that this list is looking at specific reigns rather than a champion's overall body of work. So for as iconic an Intercontinental Champion as Chris Jericho is, for instance, his 9 reigns averaging 34 days won't be appearing on this list. Admin done, let's ride. I'm Tempest hailing from Parts Unknown, and these are the 10 greatest WWE Intercontinental Championship reigns of all time. But before we get on with this list, make sure of course that you like this video, subscribe, and enable notifications to always on so you never miss a fun list just like it. And make sure you check out the latest edition of Survival Series where everyone tries to name every AEW champion, and I mean every AEW champion. Number 10, The Miz's 5th reign. This is the best you are getting. Alright, let me check my notes here on my overly large hand. The great promo on Talking Smack, the match with Dolph Ziggler, the 4-way where Sami, KO, and Cesaro carried the load. To be fair, that is more than most Intercontinental title reigns of the era had, although it remains true that the highlights of this reign were packed into 3 weeks of this 6-month run that otherwise included nothing matches with Apollo Crews and Make Darren Young Great Again era Darren Young. That promo is very great, as is the match with Dolph Ziggler. In fact, it is remembered enough to this day that it gets brought up all the
Hey, they had a good ladder match too, Tim and Ziggler. It's not as bad as you claim it. Unfortunately, yeah, it was put with the rivalries with Apollo Crews and Darren Young and Paul Backlund. But the Miz's reign isn't as bad as people make it out to be. I can still say that with fairness.
Time, and it was enough to convince a generation that The Miz had actually restored honor to the title. It's the greatest Intercontinental title reign in the minds of all the people who weren't alive to see Mr. Perfect hold the belt upside down, but this is a cultured list, so let's continue. Number 9, Randy Orton. There weren't a lot of examples of the Intercontinental title actually elevating someone to main event status post-Attitude Era, but one of those examples was 23-and-a-half-year-old Randy Orton, who beat Rob Van Dam at Armageddon 03 to start his one and only reign as IC champ. This was the Evolution has all the belts era of Raw, and the evolutionary that held their belt the longest was Randall Kentavious Orton. While the title wasn't the main focus of his run with Mick Foley up to WrestleMania 20, their match at Backlash over the IC belt is one of the very best matches in the title's history. Orton was also able to have very solid matches during this time with guys like Shelton Benjamin and Chris Jericho, raising his stock tremendously by the time he lost the title to Edge at Vengeance in an extremely underrated match. It's not often these days that you see the Intercontinental Champion...
Oh my god, hold on, no, we'll go back.
Extremely underrated match. It's not...
There's a sign that says sign AJ Styles. Well, they would in about 13 years probably. 13 to 12 years when this was done.
Not often these days that you see the Intercontinental Champion immediately go for the world title upon losing the belt, let alone winning it, but Randy Orton pulled it off with the best IC title reign of the 2000s. Number 8, Mr. Perfect's 2nd reign. When Dave Bradshaw's era of wrestling fan thinks of the Intercontinental Championship, one of the people who is holding that title is Mr. Perfect. Occasionally upside down, but I guess even
Why does he keep bringing that up? I wasn't around this time. I'm not a 90s guy. I do want to review more stuff, but I feel like they'll do that for members when I get to 500 subscribers, which you should subscribe and help me get to. But I think once I get members and all that, I'll start doing more pay-per-view reviews of old stuff. But this is, I haven't watched much of the 90s and that. Like, Mr. Perfect time frame.
Kurt Hennig couldn't be perfect 100% of the time. Had Perfect's 2 reigns as IC champ.
90s and 80s.
Have not been interrupted by a Texas tornado, he would have placed even higher on this list, but as it stands, this second reign of Mr. Perfect, lasting 280 days, solidified him as a perfect Intercontinental Champion. There weren't necessarily as many iconic title defenses on TV during this reign as others on this list, but this was also a different era where house show business was a huge component of WWE business, and many a fan went home from a WWE show remembering the Mr. Perfect match on the show. And, of course, you cannot talk about this reign without mentioning the match in which he lost the title to Bret Hart at SummerSlam, a diamond in an era of duds, and a match that defines the Intercontinental title to this day. Number 7, The Rock's second reign. I'll tell you right now, the Attitude Era will not see a lot of love on this list. In the 5 years between WrestleMania 13 and WrestleMania 18, the IC title changed hands 42 times. There were 11 in 1999 alone. However, amidst a sea of short, unmemorable reigns, there was one that was long, featured great character work, and elevated the champion to heights unmatched since.
It's time for The Rock to defend his Intercontinental title. I remember that for a match with Austin. Anything wrong with The Rock in the Attitude Era, just nailed it. He just nailed it. The Rock just works. He always will. Much how we all hate it, The Rock is just... he just touches gold.
And that reign belonged to The Rock. Old Dwayne Rock Villa's first go-around with the belt was not great, the height of the Die Rocky Die era, but his second reign was different. The leader of the Nation of Domination, this is where The Rock came into his own, and any reign that can boast the rise of one of the greatest superstars in the history of the wrestling business must be pretty great. This wasn't the era of regular stellar title defenses, but The Rock left his best match as Intercontinental Champion for last, dropping the title in one of the early classic ladder matches to Triple H at SummerSlam 98. A match so good it might even distract you from the neon yellow ladders they used. Just a few months...
That's another one. There's a lot of stuff I need to watch. Help me get members on so I can start reviewing pay-per-views, because... I will.
Months later, The Rock was the WWE Champion, and a quick transition from mid-card champ to world champ is a mark of a successful reign in my book. Number 6, Pedro Morales' second reign. It's time to cast our minds back to an era of territorial WWF, when all title reigns started and ended in the Northeast. Enter former WWF champion Pedro Morales, one of the most successful champions in the company's history, becoming just the 3rd Intercontinental Champion ever. His first reign was also a contender for this list, but ultimately it would be his second, clocking in at 424 days that would put him among the greats. The first ever Triple Crown champion in WWE history, Morales' rivalry with Don Morocco over the IC title was one of the most iconic feuds in the promotion during the early 80s, with the two trading the belt back and forth for over 2 years. Morales lent a lot of credibility to this new championship, and his 14 months with the title between November of 81 and January of 83 remain some of the most successful in the title's history. Unfortunately, much of this reign is unavailable to rewatch today, but that doesn't make it any less excellent. Number 5, the Honky Tonk Man. For almost 3.5 decades,
this man does not deserve to be thing. This man had nothing good that happened with this title except for his appearance and his... Not even how he won it. Just his ending. That's all that we know of it. There's nothing great about the Honky Tonk Man's Intercontinental title reign.
The Honky Tonk Man's record as the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion has been unapproached. Unless you count Santino and his honkometer. I can't believe he didn't get there. This is a weird one, because on one hand this reign has been spoken into WWE folklore as the longest and greatest reign that there has ever been. On the other hand, can you name me any iconic moments or matches from this reign besides being squashed to lose the title at the first SummerSlam? It is pretty hilarious to consider that just 2 months after Ricky Steamboat and Randy Savage had one of the most legendary matches in WWE history over the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania 3, the title was strapped to the waist of a comedy heel who wouldn't relinquish it for 14 whole months.
Reason was because Ricky Steamboat wanted to go spend time with his family, and go off the road for a bit, spend time with his family, and Vince got all pissy about it and gave it to Honky Tonk Man as a punishment to Ricky.
Hope you like that Mania Classic, because you ain't getting any more. There is no denying that this reign is one of, if not the most iconic IC title reigns of all time. But is it as great as WWE would like you to believe it is? Nah, I don't think so. Maybe that's a blasphemous statement coming from the mouth of a naive millennial, but there have been better. Not many better, this is still top 5 all time after all, but we have 4 more reigns to cover, so Honky, if you would please shake, rattle, and roll on out of here. Number 4, Razor Ramon's first reign. Despite
Say hello to Razor Ramon. Oh, I love the Razor Ramon character. It's so insanely ridiculous that I loved it so goddamn much. Say hello to the bad guy.
never climbing up the card to main event status after any of his 4 stints with the Intercontinental title, the first to hold the title that many times by the way, Razor Ramon still managed to become one of the premier IC champs of all time, but especially of the 90s. His latter 3 reigns helped solidify that status, but the first time Razor Blade Ramon held the gold was his
Razor Blade Ramon? Oh, that's so bad. I hate that. I laugh at that. That's not even that funny, but yet it also is. Oh, I hate it and I love it at the same damn time.
his best. Holding the title for just shy of 200 days, Razor's first reign began controversially, winning a Battle Royal and beating Rick Martel to become the new champion after Shawn Michaels was stripped of the title following a suspension. However, while 2 belts floating around may detract from some reigns, in this case it helps set up the defining match of Razor's reign, one of the defining matches of the 90s, and still one of the most famous matches ever held over the Intercontinental Championship. The real Intercontinental Champion ladder match at WrestleMania 10. Razor won, solidifying him as not only the undisputed IC champ, but one of the best IC...
I'm sorry, I felt that come for a while. I'm sorry.
champs of all time. Number 3, Bret Hart's second reign. Another example of an otherwise perfect year-long reign being cut in half, this time by the handsome, brave, and strong Mountie. Bret Hart would potentially be even higher on this list had his first reign gone uninterrupted. As it stands, he has to settle for being just the 3rd best of all time. I don't know how he will ever live with...
Bret Hart, because I watched him do a, he did the timeline thing for KC Vault. He did it, for Kayfabe Commentaries, I think it was called. He did a timeline thing of 992. And what I've gathered for that is Bret never trusted anyone's booking, really. He didn't really trust anyone's booking. He kind of just always seemed to doubt that anything would go to plan and wouldn't trust them fully. I feel like that probably was also something that hampered him a bit in his career.
with such a slight against him, but we move on. Bret's second reign began in legendary fashion as he became one of the only WWE wrestlers to ever pin Roddy Piper's shoulders to the mat at WrestleMania 8. From there, his reign lasted until SummerSlam, where he dropped the title to Davey Boy Smith in Wembley Stadium in front of only 80,000 people. Small potatoes, really, when compared to the much more impressive 81,000 fans from some other show. That match with Bulldog is very special for many reasons, whether it be Davey's temporary amnesia, forgetting the entire match as they got in the ring, or the sheer quality of this 25-minute classic, or the incredible scope of such a match closing out Wembley Stadium over the WWF title, or the fact that just a month and a half later, Bret was WWF champion. One of the greatest examples of the IC title being used to slingshot a wrestler up the card there has ever been. Number 2, Randy Savage. It took a...
In the Macho Man Randy Savage, oh yeah. Macho Man's fantastic at everything he does. There's a reason why he's seen such a legacy. He is fantastic at every fucking thing he does.
A lot to have classic matches in the WWF during the late 80s. The promotion was fueled by showbiz, machismo, and enough cocaine to kill an elephant, and what result...
I didn't expect that part. I didn't expect the cocaine part. I didn't expect it was machismo and then enough cocaine to kill an elephant. I didn't expect that part. That one was not what I threw me so fuck off. Oh, thank you for that. Thank you for that, Tempest. I needed that. That's incredible. That is next level right there. Holy sh...
Resulted was a very popular, very exciting version of pro wrestling that still lacked the consistent in-ring wizardry that would become popular later. But during that time, there was a 414-day reign that stood apart from the rest, and that reign belonged to Randy Savage. When Hogan was on top, having the same match every night, Randy Savage was crafting a legacy for himself. Working with legends of the industry like Bruno Sammartino, Pedro Morales, Tito Santana, and, of course, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Savage cemented himself as the #2 guy in the WWF with this reign. And again, I would be remiss if I didn't properly give the deserved flowers to the match where he finally dropped the title to Ricky Steamboat at WrestleMania 3. Not that the match hasn't gotten enough flowers over the last 36 years. Christ, the match looks like Florence Pugh and Midsommar at this point. But this really was the first classic WrestleMania match, an honor that no other match will ever be able to lay claim to, and an honor held by an Intercontinental Championship match. And number 1, Chad Gable. Just in case, right? Number 1, Gunther. Gunther's the best
This one's gonna be one that is always argued at this moment if it's on a list like this, because it's gonna be recently biased, but let's be honest, it's not. Gunther has great matches with everyone. Good match with Sheamus. Can have an okay match, okay match with Riddle. Can have a good match with Shinsuke. Good match with Ricochet. Good match with Drew McIntyre. Good match with fucking Mustafa Ali. Good match with Chad Gable. The man can't have a bad match. The man is the best fucking Intercontinental Champion. As of today, one thing, he's the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion. No, fuck you, Honky Tonk Man. Hello, Gunther. Oh, Gunther is fantastic. The best, he's just the best.
Intercontinental Champion of all time. It's not even close.
It's
and
not.
to think it could all have been thrown in the if Vince McMahon was allowed to have his way with the artist formerly known as Walter. The man is simply one of the greatest pro wrestlers ever to grace the sacred mat, as are many on this list. But what Gunther has been able to do with the IC title in this decade, long past the days when the title was respected, is Hall of Fame worthy. Whether it be his Clash at the Castle masterpiece with Sheamus, or his WrestleMania stealing three-way with Sheamus and Drew, or any of the countless TV classics he has had over the last 14 months, Gunther has made his name synonymous with the Intercontinental title by simply being what the Intercontinental Champion was always said to be, the true workhorse champion of the entire promotion. There is no man more deserving of being the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion in the title's history, unless Chad Gable actually did win the belt last night, of course. But even in that bizarre timeline, missing the record by a couple of days would do minimal damage to the legacy of the Intercontinental Ring General. Long may he reign. And that...
Ladies and gentlemen, that is it for this reaction video. Let me know who you think has the best Intercontinental Championship reign of all time in the comments. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Thank you all for watching. I'll see y'all for the next one.